I'm Shannon. I'm from Spot That Dog.
Hi, I'm Jade, and I run that dog based in Wrexham.
This is the Spots of Wisdom podcast. We both own Dalmatians. We are both dog trainers. We have decided to start a podcast for everyone out there, dog wise, to discuss all things dog and Dalmatian.
Yep.
So we have two topics for today. They kind of play into each other, so we will just see how we go on. We're going to talk about Casey. We're going to talk about breed standard, and we're also going to talk about crossbreeding and how we go from there. So for us, we both own Dalmatians. I have one Casey. I have one non-Casey.
Yeah. Both of mine are KC registered, and they're also from the same breeder, so they're related as well.
Yeah, and it is quite interesting, I think, to see the difference from me from non-Casey to Casey. My non-Casey is dog reactive. He is 7 years old. He's got a great temperament. Other than that, the Casey one, he's loopy as anything, but he's the friendliest dog you ever see.
Yeah. No, both of mine are very similar. They've got no, I mean, at the minute, granted, one of them's 5 months old, so it's very hard to kind of label him. At the minute, none of them have any behavioral issues. They're not reactive. They're both quite confident. They'll take everything in their stride. So in that respect, they've got no behavior issues. Kevin is ridiculously confident, like to the point where it scares me that
Yeah.
he's going to become a teenager.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I know I'm in the teenager stage at the minute. It's great fun. So
Yeah, I'm dreading.
yeah. For me, it's being able to see the two different sides of things is actually really interesting. Before becoming a dog trainer, I obviously had Woody. I didn't become a dog trainer until Woody was about 4. He's now 7. So
Yeah.
when I first had him, I didn't know really much. I've had dogs, but Dalmatians are a different kettle of fish. And actually back then I didn't really care. Didn't care about Casey. I was like, I know the person I bought the dog from. Great. I know where he's coming from. I can meet the parents. That's all good. But actually, having gone through Woody's life and the issues that we've had, to then finding a breeder, I spent about 2 years like watching Bucky's breeder before I even got him, and then followed the whole process from like pregnancy to now every single day. So there is a big difference
Hindsight's
between.
great. Yeah, I think until you've been in that situation, you don't know any different. And so in your head, it's absolutely fine. And it's not until you do things again and you think, oh, this is a bit different to the last time that
Yeah.
you realize there is a massive
Yeah.
difference. So then from a dog to dog point of view, then, how are they different? What would you look at and go, you know what? They are completely different.
So although Woody has a lovely temperament when it comes to general, obviously he is
Yeah.
dog reactive. We are training it. Is a mix of
Mhm.
frustration, slight fear. But actually he is just generally nervous. So it's not really something we thought of until we really started delving into his reactivity. But it'd be things like loud noises, so bangs, like bin lids falling over and stuff like that. That scares him. Or like he hates motorbikes. If he hears a motorbike, it freaks him out. He's not happy about it. In the recent last year or two, we do the same walk. If we're just doing a normal walk, we just do like a loop around the block. Not just a loop around the block, but we do our loop around the block. We always come up the same road. He now does not like that road because of all the traffic that goes past. And that again is his noise sensitivity. Whereas with Bucky, there's not a lot that scares him. Um, Again, he is super confident. He's 11 months old. He'll be 12, well, a year old next month. He's super confident, takes to everything. So took to water really quickly. Absolutely loves swimming. His Woody's really trainable. He's more stubborn. Bucky is super trainable. He loves it. If there's food involved, he's doing it. Um,
Yeah.
but just as a general, he isn't that nervous. Bucky's not nervous unless something happens. So,
Okay.
like, he's currently scared of the boot of the car because he accidentally got his tail trapped, which is fair.
Uh,
Fine.
okay.
So we got to work backwards. We desensitize, we make it a good thing. It's not a problem. But Woody is like has pre-nerves, and
Yeah.
until he figures out something isn't scary, he's nervous of it. Whereas Bucky's like, oh yeah, this is great, unless something ruins it for him. So it's interesting that like again, they're complete different breeders. They're from different ends of the country. Like Woody was around the corner from me, whereas Bucky was from Wales. So
Yeah.
it is complete. One is a proper Casey breeder. One is someone I know. They bred their dogs. Back then, that was fine. I got a lovely dog out of it. Woody's amazing, but I deal with the reactivity, the lack of confidence, and all of
Yeah.
that in hindsight with it. So I wouldn't change him. Obviously, it'd be great if he wasn't reactive.
Think back, comparing the two, are there things that you look back at now and you can see in Woody that show that he was nervous? Does that make sense? So looking back at him as a puppy, do you think, oh, there was a sign of it there?
Not really. So
Um,
was always the hard part of his reactivity because there's never a reason for it.
okay.
Or like there was a load of reasons, but not one definitive reason. So for him, he lost his tail at 1.5 years. He split it on a door frame after a bath. It never healed. It took 4 months to heal. So he had literally 4 months in and out of the vet where he was traumatized from that. And then,
It's horrible.
yeah, it was awful. And then we had lockdown. That wasn't long after he lost his tail. So he went from being a dog that was 30, 45 hour minutes, etc. walk every day in the dark after work, and it would always be a road walk because it was too dark, to a dog that came up the stables twice a day and got to run around, have the life of Riley, do what he wanted, but he only socialized with the dogs at the yard. So for me, you've got lockdown, you've got he lost his tail, you've got the lack of socialization, all which probably played into it. So it wasn't that he was ever nervous because he used to do agility. He used to absolutely love other dogs. He still doesn't do agility anymore. He did it even when he was reactive. But he used to do agility before he was reactive and run around, be off lead. Great, had great time. We used to do obedience. He didn't like obedience, but he played with the other dogs there. Didn't have an issue with that. Never had an issue until after lockdown, and things just started to fall.
It's funny, isn't it? Because like I know that they're similar ages, aren't they? So him and Sherlock are similar age.
Oh yeah.
And we had a similar experience in that it was before lockdown when we got him. He went from being around loads and loads of people because obviously Dalmatians, you get bombarded all the time. So we went from seeing all these people to suddenly he wasn't allowed to say hello to any of these people. And you were afraid to avoid people. And then he went in and he had surgery for stones. So he had 2.5-ish surgeries. So he went from being handled by all these people and loving every minute of it to being in the vets, away from me, scared, in pain, and all the rest of it. He came out, and a few weeks after that, he got bitten quite badly by a dog. But he's absolutely fine. So we don't have. So the worry for me was he's been bitten by this dog. Oh my God, that's it. He's going to be dog reactive forever. Not bothered by other dogs. Granted, he doesn't like the vets, but I can tolerate that. People and everything he's fine with. So it's just funny how the same thing can happen to different dogs and they deal with it in different ways.
And it does come down to like before being a trainer, I wouldn't have even considered it. But it does come down to their breeding and what the breeder's life at home was like and what they're exposed to, etc., etc. And there'd be things that was different in Bucky's home that there was to Woody's home and stuff like that. And even just
go on.
I was just saying, even just the difference of like our house when having Woody to Bucky. So when I had Woody, we didn't live in this bit, whereas ever since we had Bucky, we lived in this bit. So this is a side bit to the house.
So they're bringing up has been different, hasn't it? So what were the differences that you know of between the households? Like what was Bucky exposed to that Woody wasn't? Were they completely different?
Yes. Well, yeah. So Bucky essentially lived on a farm. He
Right.
had a pack of other dogs around him other than the puppies.
Yeah.
There was, as far as I know, there's horses, there's ducks. Like, it's a big old house in Wales that they got a lot of exposure to. His breeder does do show in, and they do lots of other stuff. So they would have been exposed to all those different things and little bits of training and different types of food. Like, she's a proper breeder, so she's done everything she could possibly have done beforehand. Obviously with Woody, like I said, he was someone I know. They bred their 2 dogs. So they had the family home. They were used to
Okay. Yeah.
people being around, but it was mum, dad, puppies, as far as I'm concerned. He was into horses, but I don't think the puppies ever went up there. So it's just different levels of exposure to different things. So it's not that one did anything better or worse. It was just one was a family dog home and one was a breeder's home. So there's just different levels of exposure to different things.
I get that. So where Bucky's from sounds very similar to where I've got mine from.
Yeah.
So she is a breeder. They do have a typical family home, but there's children around. I think there's grandparents around. There's horses that live on site, so they're exposed to all that. I'm pretty sure she does carriage running with
Yeah.
them. So that was kind of a bit of an element. They've had loads of different types of food. They've been used to being handled and people. They've been in the car. And it just shows so much. Like when I went to pick Kevin up, nothing phased him.
Yeah.
Like nothing. He'd come into the house and it was like he'd been here forever. And that's a little bit scary, but
Yeah.
it's also really good in the same respect.
Yeah. No, I definitely know what you mean. I think for me, that's why in future, if I do get any more, even if I don't get another Dalmatian, if I get any other dog, it will be KC, and I'll be doing my research on breeders because, like, we've had Bucky's our 5th dog in total since I was in year 7, so 2007. We've big house, multiple dogs. We've had dogs from Trade It, we've had dogs from Pre-Loved. Like,
Yeah.
back in the day, if you weren't into KC bred dogs, that was a thing. We had 3 crossbreeds. We've got 2 crossbreeds and 2
Yeah.
purebred now. And actually, we got lucky with the first 2 because they were the OG Cavapoos. One of them 16 now. They weren't a thing really back then.
Yeah. Yeah. They weren't.
It was a breeder. It wasn't someone's brother and sisters got together or whatever. It was a breeder, but that was back before the hype. They,
Yeah.
other than health problems, but equally, one made it to 17, the other one's still alive at 16, so they're gonna have health problems. Like, they did really well. We then rescued Dolly. She's 11, I think. We got her from a rescuer who goes into puppy farms and takes the dogs. So she is a mess, in all honesty. She's lush, but she's a mess. She's
Nice how.
crippled with anxiety.
Yeah.
She was having panic attacks throughout lockdown just because people were home and she wasn't used to it. So she didn't like it.
Yeah. Any
Um,
change in routine is
yeah,
so.
exactly. And she's a Bichon Cross Yorkie. Came from a puppy farm, so she's a puppy farm rescue. So it's just one of those. And then Woody came along, obviously someone I knew, so that's fine. It is what it is. And then in the process with Bucky, and actually it was really not even a better change, but it was actually really exciting in order to choose your breeder far ahead. So I always said, right, I'm gonna follow him on Instagram and on Facebook and on YouTube, and I'm gonna follow him for a year or 2 because I might not even like the dogs that they produce. Like, I followed a couple of different breeders.
Yeah.
I want to see that they breed the kind of look that I like. Because as much as you want a certain temperament and you have to like the look of what you're getting. Like, you're not just going to buy it because it suits what it's all of it. So
yeah.
I followed 2. I spoke to them both. I've told them my idea. And then throughout the time, I just followed their pictures, etc., etc. Got contacted. We got a letter come in. in January. Are you ready? And I was. So from there,
Yeah.
we followed all the lives, we followed the scans, we were involved with that breeder from the minute it happened.
Yeah.
And we've basically been in contact with them ever since. So we're nearly a year on from birth. So he's existed for longer than a year because he's obviously been pregnant and all that. And it's actually, I find it's a nicer process because you're involved in this little community for so long. Like, even when you don't even know what one's yours at that point. So from day one of being born, you don't know which one's yours because they're all little white dots. Like, you know which ones are boys, you know which ones are boys. I went in wanting a girl. I was adamant I was having a girl. I got myself a boy. I got a liver boy. I wanted a black and white girl. And it was just because as the time went on of watching them, things changed. Pardon me. I had 3 sets. So we had the choice of choosing 3, and then they'll pair best to your lifestyle, your personality. Normally you get the one that you want, but it might just be that, like, right, pink puppy is really energetic and actually not suitable for a home with a young child. So
100%.
It's paired like that as well. I was like, right, I like the 2 black and white girls, and I like the liver boy, but I don't know which one I want. And actually, it's the one that I was set on for ages, but equally, like, I was so set on having a girl for so long because I wanted my boy and my girl that I wasn't quite sure, but we got paired with Bucky, and that was the way it was. And I think going down that Casey line and finding a good breeder, actually, it's such a nice process that people don't think of because they're like, right, I want a puppy. Let's go and find a puppy. Not
Miss out on so much.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, so much. So I kind of got one of each. So I didn't get the choice for Sherlock.
Yeah.
I saw a rescue post. The breeder had a 9-week-old deaf Dalmatian puppy. He really needed a home. And even though, even though he was deaf, it was still very much an interview process. She still wasn't just going to let him go to anyone. So I had to prove I knew what I was talking about. I had to prove I knew the breed. I had to prove that my lifestyle would suit the dog, etc. Then I went to meet her. And yes, it felt a little bit interviewy, but I would much rather that than her just go, oh, he's deaf, he's broken, somebody have him. And I didn't get the choice. There's one of 12 that's deaf. This is the one that you're getting. So I was driving along going, oh, please like him. Like, please like him. You know, please there be something. But then with Kevin, again, similar to you, she messaged me the day that they all started being born. She was like, this is them being born. This is all of them now. So I was involved from day one, and I did the whole picking thing. I went and I sat with them, and I knew, opposite to you, I knew I wanted a boy. That was the only thing I went in there thinking.
And I remember you sending me the photo as well.
Yes, and there was 2 that I was really tied between, and there was a liver boy, a really chunky liver boy, and then there was Kevin, who was just causing trouble. Like, every time the door opened at like 4 weeks old, he'd try and escape, and he was sat there chewing everything. And I kept picking him up without realizing he was the one I kept kind of orientating. And I messaged the breeder very sensibly, and I said, give me a couple of days to think about it. Let me process, let me think. And I messaged her back and I went, right, I want the black and white boy. And she went, I knew you were having him. I'd already put your name for him. She was like, I could just tell.
Because you said Kevin's the same now as he was as a puppy, wasn't he?
100%.
Right, Bucky's done a 180. Bucky was the sensible puppy, used to sit out the way and be asleep in the corner while they're all wrestling. And now I've got the dog that literally runs riot, not beats everyone up, but like, he's very playful, very bolshy. Like, he is the complete opposite of what I don't regret it. He is hilarious. Like, there's things that he does that just has you chuckling, but it's just funny and how, like, the different, no matter what, everything's not what you expect. And actually, that's why I think doing the process of following the breed and the breeder is the better way forward, because you get to follow their journey and see actually how their personality grows from day one, especially if, like, you're not sure what you want. To go from, right, they've just been born to 8 weeks old, you may change your mind halfway through. And, like, depending on your breeder, you don't have to be set on what you what puppy you're having from day one. Like, you might just say, look, I'm open, but this is
Yeah,
the
but then like you said as well, you go so like you go and you look at the puppy, don't you? And you go, you know what, I want that one. And you make that decision based on like what, 30 to 60 minutes of
yeah,
being with that puppy. You're like, that's the one I've picked that I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. The breeder spends all day, every day
yeah,
with them and can see them changing. And you want someone that's going to turn around to you and go, you know what, actually, the more that I get to know that one, I don't think it's going to suit what you
yeah,
want from it. And vice versa.
yeah,
But we're still in a group. So Ken's litter are all in a group. We send each other pictures. And it's lovely seeing what they're all up to.
yeah. And that's the thing, like, we're not necessarily in a group with, we're in a Facebook group with all of any pups that have come from
Mhm.
that breeder. But actually, we talk to the breeder all the time, and his brother actually went to one of my clients, and she's kind of evolved into one of my like good friends. So we see each other multiple times a week. He sees his brother multiple times a week. So like, it's nice that actually being in that sort of community, you can keep in contact. And we know that majority of his family are somewhere between here and Wales. Like, they're not that far. Some might be, but we all get to
Yeah,
keep in contact in some sort of way. And then that way as well, like, if I had that contact with Woody, so I got his brother's contact, and they're completely different. They are
yeah.
totally different. His
Oh,
brother
really?
has, yeah, his brother has no behavioral issues. However, he has had
Yeah,
stones. Woody's never had stones. So
yeah.
it's funny how, like, this, I think being able to keep in contact with the breeders and the litters, it is really helpful for essentially their
Yeah, and
development.
you've got a backup as well, haven't you? So like I know I've got contracts with my breeder and I know for whatever reason if I was to go, you know what? I mean, it's never going to happen, but if I was to ever go, you know what? I can't have one of these
Yeah,
dogs anymore, they go back to her.
yeah,
And she's done it before. She's taken back dogs from a litter. There's no putting them into a rescue. There's none of that.
yeah,
It's if there's anything wrong, the dog comes back to me.
yeah.
End
And
of.
you don't have that kind of, I don't want to say backup, but it is. You don't have that backup
Yeah,
with a backyard bred dog, and at the majority of the time they're bred for the money. Like, it is what, like, people like, right, they either want their own pup, and just out of
yes.
happenstance, out of that has come 6 other puppies that they've had to sell, or you do get the ones that unfortunately do breed because they want to make some money. And
I've tried so many times to put clients off breeding. So
yeah,
I've had a couple that have messaged and gone, look, I love my dog. And you can tell they love their dog. And they're like, I want a mini one. I want my dog to have a puppy. And then I've got another
yeah,
one. And I'm like, that's a lovely idea. But please make sure you're in it for the right
yeah,
reasons because I know breeders. And if you're doing everything right, you're not making the fortune that
yeah,
everybody seems to think that you're
yeah,
making. And you've also got to factor in what if it goes wrong?
yeah,
What if your dog gets ill? What if you end up having 3 of them sent back? Do
yeah.
you have provisions for that? It's not all like light and fluffy.
Yeah, and
Like,
it's like, do you realize we've had the same, and we've had to explain to clients that you know what you're giving up? Like, it's not just you've got however long it is that they're pregnant for, plus the time between birth and 8 weeks old minimum, that
yeah.
realistically you can't leave them for that long. Like, especially in the
I don't think
first
people
few weeks of
realize
their
that.
life, you cannot leave them. Like,
I've had
we
breeders that sleep on the floor.
yeah, we've had
Yeah.
kittens previously, and that was absolute like hell as a teenager, with a
Yeah.
cat with her kittens in the crate, and in the middle of the night you'd have to get the mum off the kittens because she'd sat on them. Like,
Yeah.
it's no different with dogs, and if anything, it's worse. Cats biting them.
Yeah. No, I get it. People are like, oh, I love my dog. I want a mini one. I want to keep that line going forever. And I just think it's not just let's play with some puppies.
Yeah,
It's not quite as easy as you think.
sorry, the cat's trying to eat the mirror. Um, but yeah, let's kind of evolve on from there for a minute. So we're still talking Casey, breed, etc. Oh my god, cat. Sorry. Um, let's talk breed standard, and let's talk designer colors, because we know that in all of the breeds,
Yeah.
this is an issue that comes of it. So even just looking at like so Crufts this year, and obviously the Frenchie one with the flat
Mhm.
nose. That
Yeah.
it was a good looking Frenchie, but it couldn't breathe. So
Yeah.
let's mix it in. We've got Dalmatian standards and Dalmatian colours, and we will then progress
Yeah.
with other dogs. So I don't know where it is. I do have a book somewhere that explains every single breed standard. And
Okay.
actually, so if you look at my two, Bucky's
Yeah.
obviously more breed standard. His spots are more individual. He's got more white on him than he's got on black. Whereas Woody, his chest is basically black. So
Yeah.
he
Sherlock
can
got
do
that
very
all
well in that.
triangle. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And you've also got the fact that obviously Woody has a stump for a tail where he's had his operation. So if we took him to Crufts, he'd get kicked out straight away.
Fail. Bless him. He'd fail.
Yeah, but that's fine. He wouldn't be able to go to Crufts anyway, so we don't worry about that.
Mine's deaf. Mine's not going anywhere.
No. So what's your opinion? Breed standards?
Breed standards as a whole,
Yes.
I think it depends. I'm going to give a really diplomatic answer to begin with, and I think it depends on the breed.
Yeah.
So you've got we'll use the posh term, you've got the brachycephalic dogs, so your French bulldogs and all them kind of breeds that have the squash nose. And they are still allowed to be bred and they're still allowed to compete in places like Crufts, and the breed standard requests that squash nose. And I have so many vet friends that come in and they're talking to me and they've got French bulldogs and pugs and things that genuinely cannot breathe
Yeah.
just for the normal day-to-day life. And owners come in and go, oh yeah, that's just the noise that they make.
Yeah.
And my vet friends, when did it become normal for a dog to not be able to breathe?
Yeah.
And why are we treated? Yeah. So I think, yeah, there's pros and cons, I think. But when you look at certain breeds, you're like, you know what, this is not healthy, it's
Yeah.
not practical. And more importantly, the dog probably wouldn't be able to do what it was bred to do in the first place.
Yeah.
We've gone so far
Yeah.
past the point of being able to do what they're supposed to be able to do. That yeah, they put back in that situation, they'd be useless.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, like, I don't want to say evolution, but the breeds have evolved as such, because how many breeds out there are actually used for their original purpose nowadays? Like,
Yeah.
Dalmatians bred for carriage driving. It exists, but
It
not for
does.
purpose. Like,
Right.
it's not an actual purposeful job anymore. It's a show. It's for
People do
entertainment.
it as a bit of a sport or a display, don't they? They're like,
Yeah.
here, doing what they should have been doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not an actual job anymore.
No. And as much as, like, I don't think the Dalmatian breed has evolved too much, I don't think. Not unless we go into the colours, which we will do. But actually, Dalmatians have been pretty consistent all the way through on what they look like. They are meant to be athletic and muscular and have the stamina, which they do. They still do. That's not really changed. Like I said, we'll go into colours and stuff in a minute, but in that terms, they've been pretty consistent. Whereas you see things like even dogs like German Shepherds and stuff, where they still have a purpose, but actually, if you look at a photo from in the 1800s to now, they have changed. Like, they've got the sloped back and they haven't got.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Yeah, no, English Bull Terriers are a good one to look at.
Yeah.
So if you look at pictures of English Bull Terriers from years and years and years ago, and you look at them now, the exaggerated head, the difference in them is just shocking.
Yeah, and even with like the bulldogs, so English bulldog, they had a pronounced nose. Their muzzles were like out here, whereas now it is the same as Frenchies. It is flat, it is up. And I'm not gonna lie, before I knew anything, English bulldogs were my guilty pleasure dog. I would have had one, and I wanted to call it Chunk.
Love that.
But I wouldn't touch it now. They're cute as a guilty pleasure. Wouldn't touch.
Yeah, I couldn't.
Wouldn't go near
No.
them. It wouldn't be ethical as a dog trainer for me to go and get maybe an old time English bulldog, because they are bred how the originals are meant to be. But again, is still playing with a fine line of.
And on the other respect that you've got people that are maybe trying to fix those breeds. So you've got your French bulldogs or whatever, and they're trying to breed them with other dogs
Yeah,
to bring that muzzle back in. But then that goes against the breed standards
yeah,
in a certain group of people that are
yeah,
then like, well, now the dog fit to what's written. So the
yeah,
dog's healthier, but it doesn't match this list
yeah.
that we've
And the
created.
thing is, once you hit that, you're in crossbreed lines. It isn't a purebred dog. Like,
Yeah,
you
people
can
don't
do it.
like that.
You could do it in the sense of selective breeding. So you choose, right, this dog's got a longer muzzle and this dog's got a longer muzzle. So we'll breed those two, and then hopefully that'll go. That's the way things are done.
Yeah.
However, you also then fall into the category of, are you going to get in like interbreeding and mixed
Got no
lineage?
genetic.
Yeah, there's not a big enough genetic pool that you're not going to get someone's auntie with their granddad or something like that. Like, it, unfortunately, with Casey, if you aren't branching out a bit further, you do get that. So
Yeah.
that's where we kind of fall into, is it still ethical to go and grab a different breed? So we've done it with Dalmatians, like the whole LUA HUA thing. For those who don't know, low uric acid or high uric acid, an LUA somewhere down this breed line is going to be an English pointer or a Vizsla or a setter or something that has taken out that gene. But
Yeah.
realistically, that means that they're not purebred Dalmatians. They aren't what we normally expect.
And then you're kind of faced with, which do you pick? Do you
Yeah,
pick the not purebred that's healthier,
yeah,
or the purebred that's actually carrying those genes that we don't want?
yeah. But
You've got to
equally,
pick.
like, you've got to both, haven't you? Because you're like, the crossbreed doesn't have the health issues that a standard Dalmatian has, but it's not technically ethically bred, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
things to play with when it comes to that. So yeah, it's a very fun one. And I think while we're on that point, I'm going to move onto the colouring, the designer colours or designer colours. We can go on to designer dogs another day. Back to the point of crossing a Dalmatian with setters, etc., like that. We get your lemon, your orange, your long haired. And for those of you who
Yeah.
don't know, if you're going to go out there and do your research and you want to know what a lemon Dalmatian looks like or a long-haired Dalmatian, you can look, but don't buy one. They are not ethically sourced. They are not ethically bred. The whole point of a long-haired, a lemon, or an orange is that they have chosen the recessive genes, the genes that weren't meant to come out, and then chosen to purposely breed them. So they aren't the strong gene as such. They aren't the truthful gene that should
I
come
think
from there.
people, not everyone, I don't want to tar everybody with the same
Yeah.
brush. But then you do get the people that go, you know what, we're going to breed these colors together. We're going to label these colors as super rare, like you're going to
Yeah.
be one of 1,000 people that own one. And we're going to profit on this by
Yeah.
charging you, 10 times what you would
Yeah.
charge for a normal colored one.
Yeah. When
You think, I've
realistically,
got this dog.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, realistically, a lemon or a long-haired Dalmatian should technically be at the same as a deaf Dalmatian, because if they're gonna put a deaf Dalmatian as a breed fault, then so is a lemon and so is a long hair, because they are not breed standard. They are not bred to the ethically placed like standards that a general Dalmatian has. Like, as a breed standard, you have liver or you have black and white, and that's it.
But then this again, the same thing with you mentioning deafness. I have people that breed their deaf Dalmatian, or know of people that have bred their deaf Dalmatians together, or a deaf one with a non-deaf one, for certain traits.
Yeah.
And just kind of forgotten the fact that
Yeah.
they were deaf.
And it's one of these, you then risk, like, obviously with yours, you know that he, other than his deafness, he is very well socialized. Yeah. He has got a great personality and stuff like that. But you also then risk, if you pair it with someone else, that dog may be ever so slightly anxious or something. If you've got a deaf, nervous puppy that comes out of it,
Yeah, he could have easily gone the other way. Easily gone the other way. So luckily he's had a very good breeder. She's thrown a lot into him. he was in a group. She has lots of dogs,
Yeah.
lots. And so he was used to being around them. She's done loads of work with him. I didn't get him till he was like 10, 11 weeks old, because obviously there was the trying to find the home process. I then work with deaf dogs that don't have that, and they're a rescue or they've come from a poor breeder, for example. So then you have the deafness mixed in with the anxiety, mixed in with all the other problems that come with that. And they can be, for want of a better word, a bit of a mess.
Yeah, and I think is hard because you look at different things. People who this is very prejudiced. I'm going to go with it. The people that generally, as a trainer, I see it, go for the breed colors, the designer things, aren't the kind of people who are ready to deal with the issues that come with it.
100%.
So
I back it completely, 100%.
So let's go out of Dalmatians for a minute, but like, so going back to Frenchies and things like that, breeding these designer colors, you probably end up with more skin conditions. You end up with worse breathing, worse backs, legs. They end up with 20, 40 grand's worth of vets bills because they've chosen this designer color.
Merle's very popular at the minute.
Yeah.
Like what can we get Merle? So there's Merle Cocker Spaniels at the minute, Merle French Bulldog.
I have seen those. And I think even with that itself, like, I don't even, this might be that I need to do my research. I don't think there is actually a breed standard for Merle, or I'm happy to be corrected.
Couldn't tell you. I'd have to look that up. I know it's very common.
You got collies, but again, I don't think that's standard.
I don't think it is, because then you end up with double Merle.
And then the odd poodle.
And with all the other issues. Yeah. I'd have to check that, in all honesty.
Yeah. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because if you're out to purchase for designer, are you fully prepared for the backlash that will come with it? Like, even
unfortunately, I see too many people go out and buy a dog because it looks pretty.
Yeah.
And it does. It looks very cute. It's got long ears. It's fancy colors. It looks beautiful. But they've done no other breed research except the fact that it looks pretty.
Yeah. And I think then it really comes into play with like the breed mixing, like we said before. So mixing this said Merle dog, let's go with poodle, with another breed to get a Merle cockapoo. Well, if all you've got to do is scroll through TikTok and go through comments, and you'll see the mix that you have. You've got the cockapoo owners who, oh, my dog's the best. They're really, really friendly. Right. Do they resource guard? Yes, they do. Right. They're not really, really friendly. Are they reactive? Yes. Well, they're not really, really friendly then. Like, as a dog, so dog trainer, dog walker, dog sitter, and I have previously worked in daycares. I don't want one. I don't want one near me. Like, we've got some good clients that are cockapoos that are not slating them individually, but as a whole.
I'm gonna be just as out there as you, and I'm gonna go, I don't want one either. No. So we'll both do that. I think you risk again, but again, this just comes with everything. You get the people that want the cute and the fluffy with lots of colors. Let's get the cute, fluffy cockapoo. Yeah. And they don't realize that they're two working dogs.
Yeah.
Never mind before you throw in all the issues that come with those snazzy colors, and you end up with a resource guarding, hyperactive, frustrated mess of a dog that isn't just going to sit on your sofa all day. They're not that kind of dog.
I think people seem to forget, like you said, that is two working breeds, and then like you said, they're over hyperactive because they're not having their breed needs met. You've got a poodle who are really smart, like really smart. They can do everything under the sun. If you actually have a look at what poodles can do, there's a shitload they can do. Then you've got a cocker spaniel.
I said it to someone the other day. I said, I am seeing, and she had a cockapoo, so it was fine. I said, there is, if you pick them well, you work them well, you train them well, they're lovely. I said, but I wish more people would consider going to get a poodle rather than something a poodle is mixed with. Poodles are great.
Yeah,
Go and get a poodle.
yeah, fully agree.
At least then you know what you're getting. Wow.
Yeah, and you haven't got the mix of, even in itself, just the coat. If you've got a crossbreed,
Yeah.
you don't know if you're going to get a sleek coat, you don't know if you're going to get a curly coat, you don't know if you're going to get the coat in between the mats, like there's such a mix, there's no guarantee, and like it has been proven that
I've offended people before. So I've offended people by going up to them and saying they have a really lovely Cocker Spaniel, and it's not been a Cocker Spaniel, it's been a Cockapoo. But it
yeah,
looks so much like a Cocker
yeah,
Spaniel, you can't see the
no,
poodle in there. And then they get really offended
yeah.
because they've probably paid extra for a poodle mix that
Oh,
doesn't look like
yeah,
a
but
poodle
that's when
mix.
they pay extra because they've got an FL2 cross for.
I got told that once. I got told this is an F1B
Yeah,
type, something or other Cockapoo. It is not a Cocker Spaniel.
yeah. So you're talking
And it was
gibberish,
like
basically,
3/4 spaniel. So I was like, so it's pretty much a spaniel.
or a mongrel.
But yeah, she wasn't very happy
No,
at
and
all.
I think that's where, again, people need to go back and do their research because they're so confident in believing the breeders and that the breeders know everything. Hit the bit of controversy
Yeah,
that breeders don't know everything, especially crossbreed breeders, because they go out there, oh, it's an FL1 cross FL2 B type, whatever you just said. So it's a mongrel. Unless it's a cocker
yes,
spaniel cross with a poodle, that's a cockapoo.
yes,
So you've got a cockapoo cross with
yeah,
a cockapoo, that's a mongrel.
yes, yeah,
Anything that is more than two breeds is a mongrel.
yeah.
You've got a
And
crossbreed,
then
which
they get
is two
different
breeds.
names. Yeah,
Yeah,
so they've now got new names. So now if you've got a cockapoo that's crossed with another cockapoo that's crossed with something else, you then have like a whole different
yeah.
name for this variety of
Have a Pouchons or
breeds. Yes,
the
I
shit
get that.
jackapoos and all that. Like they're just, no, it's a mongrel. And there's nothing wrong with mongrels. You get some really cute
Absolutely
mongrels.
fine.
Look at all
But going,
like the
yeah,
overseas rescues, they're all mongrels.
exactly. But
They're still
going at it from
mongrels.
a little bit of a controversial point of view, if you look at, I'm going off on a tangent now.
Yeah.
If you look at insurance companies, if you type in crossbreed, you will pay less than if you type in cockapoo or
Cockapoo.
labradoodle.
And
Yeah.
it's because of all the things that come with it. It's because
Yeah.
the cockapoo and the labradoodle and all the doodle crosses are known by people who know they are known to have issues.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
they're
And I don't think new owners know that. So
no,
I'll get a message and it'll pop up and you see cockapoo. And the same with every breed. You get a message and you're like, right, that's a cockapoo, so guaranteed it's going to be doing this, this, and
yeah.
this. And new owners have not done their research and they just go, I just wanted a cute little family fluffy dog that would sit on the sofa. And I'm like, well, that's not the dog
Yeah.
for you. And if you'd have typed in poodle or cocker
Yeah.
spaniel, you'd have seen that.
Or even if they just search and like obviously you've got all the different breed types. So you've got utility, you've got companion, you've got if they just search companion breeds, they'd find a breed that is literally made to sit on the sofa and do nothing.
I mean, that's not my kind of dog. I like a
No.
busy, worky dog. That's my job. I want
Yeah.
to put that to use. Then going all the way back full circle, the breeder shouldn't be giving these
No.
dogs to people that don't know what they're bred for.
No. I think there's
And
a
my
lot
breeder,
of
my
yeah.
breeder's turned so many people, and I'll be chatting to her, and I'm like, have they got homes yet? And she's like,
No.
no, I've seen 10 people this week, and I've turned all 10 people away because
Yeah.
they're not suitable.
And I give it,
That's what you
it's
should
a
be.
hard journey for the breeders when they get stuck with all these puppies and they don't know what else to do. Of course, they might have to here and there just kind of drop their standards a little bit. But when you've got people that are giving like cocker spaniels to 80-year-old men, like, are they really going to be
Yeah,
able to keep up with it? Like, in all honesty, can
yeah,
they go out every day and train that dog? Can they handle if the dog jumps
yeah.
up in the air? Like, it should. There are breeders that don't do that, and it is just shocking sometimes.
No, yeah, they shouldn't. But yeah, no, I've heard it too many times. Big dogs, big, heavy breeds of dog
Yeah,
being sent to people that are older, that have mobility issues, that just want to sit on the sofa all day with a dog, and that's
yeah,
fine. but breeders are going, oh yeah, take this working line,
Yeah.
whatever it is. Never going to work.
No, and even like this will sound bad, but I've seen, I mean, you see it on that Dogs Behaving Badly when we watched it back in the day. There was a lady who was probably about 6 stone with a Great Dane. Like,
Yes.
in all honesty, can you hold that dog in just a harness or just a collar? Not any restrictive equipment, no halty, no adversive equipment. We don't, but point there. Like, could you
Yeah.
hold that dog back without any issues? Because if you can't, then why are you getting a dog like that?
Yeah, regardless of equipment, one day for whatever reason you might need to grab that dog.
Yeah.
For whatever.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a safety element, and then it becomes a safety to everybody else element, which could have been completely avoided
Yeah.
if the breeder
And
would
the
have
thing
just
is,
gone. That's not
it would be the same with our breeders. That's it for us. So these Bucky's about 33 kilos, Woody's about 30. They're pure muscle. They're not
yes.
fat.
Oh,
They're not big. They're
mhm,
medium-ish sized dogs, which are pure muscle.
mhm.
Like, I don't let anyone walk Woody but myself, because when he
Yeah.
reacts, he goes hard. So
Mhm.
for me, thankfully, I ride horses, I go to the gym, I walk for 8 hours of a day for my job. I have the body type to be able to
Yeah.
hold him back. However, you give it to my mum, who's 5 foot tall, she'd
Yes.
be down the street.
Yeah,
Like,
completely.
breeders need to look into these things and say, right, I don't mean to be offensive, but you're not the type of owner I want my puppies to go to, because I don't think you could handle them. And like, they're fully welcome to say, prove me wrong. And if
Yes.
that 80-year-old man comes and goes, well, I'm a bodybuilder, then great, you have it.
Yes.
Like, if
Yeah.
you can hold it, go for it.
Mhm. Yeah, no. And I think, yeah, you've got to prove as well. As we've already said, Dalmatians, I love them to bits. They are my breed. I love them. But I am also fully aware that they are not for everyone
Oh yeah,
and they
no.
very difficult dogs.
I don't recommend them to anyone.
No, I don't. And people always get amazed by that. They're like, oh, do you recommend them to everybody? And I'm like, no, mine are mental. And I mean that in
There's,
a lovely way, like, but they're
yeah,
mental.
I
And if I
wouldn't, I
them,
recommended obviously Bucky's brother to my client, but that was because I know that she already had a reactive dog and she did the
yeah,
same process as me. We introduced them really slowly, different rooms. Like, I was there the whole process. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone else. None of my other
no,
clients,
no.
because it's the right breed for the right couple. They're an active couple, they're a young couple. They have been used to a reactive dog, so they know how to deal with any issues that come from it. But in
Yeah,
general, I don't recommend them to anyone.
I don't recommend. I don't. And I've had people that have messaged me, and it always really offends me, but like people that message me and they're like, I've got Dalmatians, I need your help because I know you know how untrainable they are. And I'm like, they're not. They're like the opposite.
Yeah.
They're so clever and they need a job so badly
Yeah. And actually, for me, some of my worst clients have been Dalmatian owners.
because they go out and they buy the Disney dog and
Not
they
ready for
don't
the
realize that
training.
they,
No.
yeah, there used to be a working dog. And I know so many that are out doing gun dog work. I've got people that use them for, scent detection stuff. They can be
Yeah.
trained for everything.
Yeah.
They're not, I mean, don't get me wrong, mine will sit on the sofa
Yeah.
underneath a blanket, loving life. But that's only because they get the job
Yeah.
50% of the rest of the time. Otherwise, they'd both be destructive, loud, chewy, horrible messes.
Yeah. I know the feeling.
Yeah. So I don't recommend them. And everyone goes, oh, do you think I should get one? And I'm like, no, don't do it.
Don't touch. Stay away. Now, I definitely know how you feel, but I think that may conclude today's chat. We've been
I
going
think
for a while. So for those of you that have listened or are listening or watching, please leave us a comment on what you would like to hear from us. And then once we get going a bit more, we can add some more topics to our chat and we will move from there. Our next one should come out in about 2 weeks. We're aiming to have another one for about New Year. So follow along, subscribe, etc. And we will speak to you soon.
yeah. Thank you very much.
Bye bye.
Bye.